please welcome Meghann Fahy, who plays Sutton. Aisha, who plays Cat. Nikohl, Boosheri, who plays Cadena. And of course, Lasher, who is our executive producer and showrunner.
Do you want my mic for
do you
now?
want to share?
We can share.
Let's all just share. Sharing is caring.
Hi. And then, yes, I will pass this to you when it is time. First of all, my heart is full because The Bold Type is coming back into our lives. In my opinion, it is the best summer series. I'm just curious to know, for the cast, what has the reaction been like for you to the first season and just kind of having audiences really embrace the show?
It's been amazing. It's really cool that there's so many people in the audience. Every time I do one of these panels, I'm like, is anyone going to show up?
I know, I feel the same way. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I mean, I don't think any of us really expected it. It's kind of, there's so much content now and there's so many shows that, you know, whenever you do a show, you're kind of like, oh, well, no one might see it, but whatever, I'm having fun. And the fact that everyone is so into it and that the fans are like so, like they know every detail and I don't know, it's...
I think for me the best part is the way that people express that the show has affected them.
Yeah.
Like when we meet young women and men and stuff on the street. I live in New York, so like I'm on the subway sometimes and I've had girls come up and be like, can I sit next to you? And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And they're always sort of like, this show has empowered me. This show has made me feel confident. The show inspired me to have a hard conversation with a friend or a coworker or a boss. And that, I feel like, is what we love the most about the way people have responded to the show.
And like the most surprising people too. I was at like a rooftop bar in LA, and this guy walked past, and I was like, "Oh, cool sneakers," and he turned back and he was like, "Bold Type," and I was like, "Excuse me, sir, why are you watching the show?" He's like 6'6", and then his girlfriend was with him. And his girlfriend was like, "What's the Bold Type?" Yes.
Yeah.
His girlfriend was like, "What's the Bold Type?" And I had to explain what it was to her, and he was like, "You should watch it. It's great." She's like, "What are you doing watching a show about girls watching it, doing
And then
a
I
magazine?"
met him later, and he's like, "Oh, I'm all caught up." This was
I was actually in Italy and I had a guy come up to me and he was like, "My girlfriend loves your show." And I was like, "I don't see your girlfriend anywhere." It was very cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Oh yes.
Great job, Boo.
Let's share. We're gonna share.
Oh, that's easier.
We share. We're gonna do it.
Well, Amanda, I'm so excited that you've come onto The Bold Type this season. This is not your first female fierce show that you've been a part of. You were a part of Gossip Girl. You were part of the canceled too soon MTV series Sweet Vicious, which I loved. When you entered this season, what were your goals coming into the writer's room and coming into the show?
I mean, I came on as a huge fan of the show, and so for me, I was like, "Oh my God, the Bold Type, really?" So for me, it was really just continuing the things that everybody loves and responds to the show, responds to about the show, which are the things that I responded to, which is that these incredible friendships and seeing women supporting each other, and not pitting women against each other, and having it, and just having there be talking about social issues, but doing it in a way that didn't feel heavy-handed, which was something that we worked really hard on Sweet Vicious as well, and so it was something that I felt really strongly about, and I thought that the show did so beautifully. So I just want to continue that.
Meghann? I think we can all agree that Mitzi's the absolute worst. But unfortunately, we are still dealing with the fact that there are women out there who do not support other women in the workplace, and it is a daily issue that some people have to deal with. Can you talk about how Sutton deals with that at Scarlet and kind of the journey that she has to go through?
Yeah, I think unfortunately, sometimes women are pitted against each other, and it's like you sort of, almost in an subconscious way, like you think that you have to be competitive with someone in order to succeed in whatever it is that you're trying to succeed in. I think one of the really important stories that we're trying to tell on the show is you can lift someone else up and also lift yourself up. Like you don't have to push someone else down in order to get to where you want to be. So I think the unfortunate thing about the thing with Mitzi is like she gives voice to, she is one voice, but she sort of represents the whole idea, which is like so many people would probably feel that way about Sutton if they found out about her relationship with Richard, which is what she's so afraid of. So unfortunately, I think like it's a very real issue that she's dealing with, where she's like, I am working my ass off and I do deserve all of the wins that I'm having in my career. But if people find out that I'm with Richard, they'll think that, you know, I just got to where I am because of that. So it sucks.
But she's Sutton, and she kicks butt, so she's going to handle it beautifully, and you'll see more of that in episode 2. One of the things that I loved so much about this season 2 premiere is that we got to see 2 women talk so openly about oral sex together, and then in turn, we saw... And then in turn, we
oral sex. Go on.
We saw that act. First off, Amanda, can you talk about what you and the writers did in the writers' room to take steps to show a couple in such an open and honest and relatable way?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the 2 of them have such incredible chemistry and such like a connection that it just is so easy to write to in that way. But we just very much we wanted to take every step and enjoy all the steps of a woman being in love for the first time and being in love with a woman for the first time, and sort of really get in and explore that. And it just felt like a huge opportunity to really lean into that, and then also to show what it's like to go down on a woman for the first time if you've never done that. Like, I'd never seen that story before, and we talked about that in the writers' room, and it was just something that we thought would be something that it was an experience that Kat would have. And she says in the first episode, in the first season, she's like, I've never done that before, it's not for me. And we were like, so then how do you get from point A to point B, and what's that like for her? And so we just thought it was something that we wanted to see, and we wanted to see Kat explore, and thought it was something that they would, like a story that they could tell with like humor and beauty, and I thought that they did. So
I was honestly so impressed that it like made it on. I mean, it's not on the TV yet. What is it? Tuesday it's on?
Oh, Tuesday.
Yeah,
June
but I
12th.
was so surprised that they wrote it and that it, you know, because there's all these powers that are above us and like people in suits and stuff, and I was like, maybe they're gonna nix it before it makes
I
it.
don't think we thought it was going to be. I don't think we thought it was going to be so full on. Yeah.
we just shot it for our own entertainment. Let's make them do that.
The angle that they chose, the shot that was chosen, I think we were probably delirious when we were shooting it too. It was like 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And we were like, all right. Happy to be here, sure, ready to go home. So I think seeing it, you were like, oh yes, we did that.
Yeah, and I just feel like it's not often, we're gonna do this, it's not often that you get to see like LGBT characters be sexual on TV, network TV. And I'm so like proud of Freeform and like proud of everyone involved for like pushing that and pushing the envelope, and just lucky to be a part of it.
They were like, yeah, go there. It was great. I mean, they were so supportive of it, and we wanted it to not be just like a tender kiss that faded that faded to black. Like we were like, no, we're gonna keep going down.
Well, fans have such a strong relationship to the Cadena relationship. They really love seeing these 2 women and the evolution of how they've come together. I'm curious to know, for Aisha and Nikohl, what kind of conversations did you 2 have as actresses about the evolution of this relationship and what it really means to the women out there who are watching you?
Go off. Yes, get it.
Oh, God. I think from the very beginning, the relationship, how we were going to depict that, and just these 2 women in particular, Aisha and I talked a lot from the very beginning about how sensitive it was, how important it was so that it feels authentic and feels true to real life, we don't really know where the stories are going either. So sometimes it feels like they have bugs in our hotel rooms, or we're equally as surprised sometimes with where the stories are going, and we're like, how did they know? Or, so, I mean, what was the question again?
We care a lot.
But what has it been like for you guys to portray this couple on screen? Because there are so many fans out there who are like, yes, finally, thank you so much for representing this to us.
I mean, there's obviously a lot of pressure when you're playing a character or when you are a person that is quote unquote diverse. I kind of sort of hate that word because I'm like, aren't we all diverse? We're all like different. But there's like a different pressure there because the representation up until this point hasn't been great. We're getting there. We're like moving forward. And it's a lot better than it was. But yeah, we like both really felt the responsibility of that and care a lot. And I remember the first time we met in, she had just gotten in, and I had gotten her number. I was like, hey, like I'm playing Cat, let's meet up for coffee. And we met in this cafe, and I showed her this photographer that I had found who was a lesbian Muslim photographer. And I was like, this is, who I see Cadena as. So we looked at her work, and then we were on her Tumblr, like scrolling, all of her pictures and taking style inspiration from her, and then giving that to the wardrobe department, and like.
And then that was the back and forth. That that was the beginning of how we approached breaking down these characters, constantly sending each other articles and photographs.
Yeah. And Elaine, I can never say her last name, and that's like a crime because I'm such a big fan of hers. Elaine, Teen Vogue, Elaine Wentworth? I feel awful. She's amazing, and that was who I was like, oh, Kat is hopefully her. She wears these amazing clothes and white boots, and people hate the silver boots, but I have a love-hate relationship with the silver boots.
I think too, when something hasn't been done before, you have a lot of people looking to that to see themselves reflected in that one particular experience, and like you can't, as much as you want to, I think that just goes to show there aren't enough of these stories, but you can't attempt to make everyone happy. We can just do our best telling these particular stories, the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
I loved in this first episode the fact that we see Sutton and Richard have a conversation where Sutton's saying, I know it's a gamble, but I need to put my career first right now and hope that love will fall into place. And I feel like, especially on social media, women are constantly being bombarded with like pictures of like girls in their happy relationships and girls who are succeeding. And it's so hard to be like, can women have it all? So I'm curious to know, Meghann, what are your thoughts on Sutton's mindset right now? Because I think it's amazing that she's like, no, I'm hoping that love will fall in, but I need to kick butt in my career right now.
I think Sutton is learning a lot. I think, it's a tricky thing for her to be navigating. So I also love that she is doubling down on her career, but I also really have a lot of faith and hope that through her journey, she will learn how she can have both and feel good about it, because I do believe that it's possible, and I do hope that her storyline inspires women to feel like that is possible. Unfortunately, right now, I think she's sort of at the beginning of that journey, so we're following her through it. But yeah, I mean, we're not trying to perpetuate this idea that you can't have both, but we're following the journey of someone who is learning how to navigate that journey. But I think you can have it all, and you should have it all. So I think hopefully Sutton will, be her own champion and sort of figure out how to have both and feel like she deserves it.
Yeah. And just because the lovely Katie is not here does not mean we're not going to talk about Tiny Jane. She's working at Insight right now. Yeah. And that's where she currently is right now. That's why she couldn't be here. She's chasing a big, important story. The transition from Scarlet to Insight does not seem to necessarily be the smoothest transition. Amanda, can you talk about the challenges that you wanted to put in Jane's path and just kind of how she's navigating no longer being by her best friends, jumping into this world where it seems like she looked amazing in that pitch meeting, but she seems a little bit like a fish out of water in this new place?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, we just thought that'd be really fun to like put Jane in that world. But also, you know, the idea, Jacqueline is such a dream boss, and that's such a wonderful thing about the show that you know, we have this role model in Jacqueline, and that she's not the like typical like mean, bitchy, you know, boss that you're used to seeing. And I think that's one of the things that people really respond to about the show, and that's one of the things that I really loved about the show. But that's not most people's experience. Like, most people's experience is like with a boss that's not so understanding and not so compassionate. And so we wanted to see what it was like for Jane to go up against that and experience a different sort of role model, and how she'd react to that. And also we wanted to see her fail and stumble and see how like tiny perfect Jane handled that situation.
Well, if you guys are like me, that means you've watched the Bold Type promo like 1,000 times and dissected it. And we see that Jane's new boss does not seem too happy with her. And that scene does take place in episode 2. What can you tease about Jane's evolution? Because from the trailer, it looks like things might not work out. Could she go back to Scarlet? Can you do that? Please.
One can always go back to places that mean things to us, but we have to find our way back there. It's not always so easy. Oh my gosh, all I want to do is tell you everything. And so as a result, I say nothing because I can't control myself. It's just, we wanted to lean into the real of it. It's like I felt very strongly, you know, when I watched the finale, and I was like, wait, what? She's walking out the door. I'm like, there's got to be 2 more minutes of the show where she walks back in the door. And like she's gonna walk back into Scarlet, right? And so we didn't want to do just sort of a bait and switch where she just like walked back in the door to Scarlet on the first day. And we wanted to sort of really play out, you know, what it was like to make that decision and what were the consequences of it, and how she was gonna sort of also find her confidence and sort of see who she was when she wasn't completely defining herself by Scarlet.
Well, and speaking of defining oneself, we get to see in episode 2, Aisha, that Kat is really dealing with the topic of racial identity. Does she identify with her white mom or her African-American dad? Can you talk a little bit about that storyline? What was your reaction to it? And were you able to relate to Kat when you were playing that?
I was so happy to open the script for episode 2 and see that, because I think it was something that was missing from the first season, and I know I'm not alone in feeling that way. But a lot of people echoed their thoughts about that, and I mean, the great thing about the show is that there is this dialogue between the fans and the people running the show. Like, we want to give everyone what they want to see and explore more and more, and we're so lucky that they ordered more episodes. I still can't get over that. Like we didn't get canceled. Wow, it's so cool. So I was obviously so happy to read it, and I think that the writers all did an amazing job of telling this story that felt really specific and real. And, you know, Kat's situation and her journey is different to mine, but it was definitely something I could relate to. I'm biracial, and Kat is also biracial, and there is this kind of like inner, I don't want to call it a struggle, but it is hard to like figure out where you belong in the world. And in every room, you're the whitest person in the room, or you're the blackest person in the room, and it can be tough. But I love the fact that you get to see this character who is in the midst of figuring it out. It's not like she just woke up one day and knew exactly who she was in any regard, with her sexuality, with all of it. And I think it's really comforting, at least for me, to see a character that's still on their journey, because I still feel like I am still figuring it out. Like, you know, I'm like, oh, look at me doing the dishes, you know, before I go to bed, and like making my bed before I leave the house. Right? It's like, I'm grown now, excuse me. So yeah, I mean, it was amazing, and I hope that everyone is really happy. I think we're telling a very specific story, but I think it's gonna be hopefully really comforting for other people too.
Well, and one of the great things about the Bold Type is that you guys are telling very specific stories, but there are hundreds of thousands of people out there who will relate to that very specific story. Adina is an out and proud Muslim lesbian, and unfortunately, we don't get to see a character like that too often on TV. Nikohl, can you talk about playing this? And
I have 2 microphones.
Can you talk about playing this character and what it has meant for you and the fan reactions that you've received?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen on screen open Muslim lesbian. And Adina's a really interesting character too, because it's like there are these parts of her that would maybe be cause for discrimination for someone else, but she like uses these things about her to empower herself, and like she's so unapologetic and isn't hiding behind anything, and is also just very open about being that she's also a work in progress. I actually in this episode, Tiny Jane says, "You don't have to get it right every time," and I love that. I feel like that like really sums up these characters in the show, and that's why they feel so relatable. And for me especially, I think it's really important. I am Persian. I'm Middle Eastern. I have Muslim family members. You know, I was raised around that faith, and in the media, you so often see Muslim women portrayed in a very certain way. And they're either in control of the faith or under the control of a man, or a victim or a refugee, or, you know. So to see this woman that's like so in control of her own life and owning her sexuality and owning all the parts of who she is, I think is really important and really inspiring to see.
And very relatable.
And the fan reactions, I think before the show was released, I was just really nervous that there's going to be a lot of people that are really offended. You know, it's such a sensitive storyline, and you don't want to feel like you're exploiting it at all. You want to be so sensitive to it. But I've met people like Adina. She feels very real to me, and the fan reaction has just been incredible. I remember last year there was this one article, like 8 Muslim queers were like interviewed from all around the world. There was like someone from Turkey, someone from the United States, and they kind of like got to share their feelings about Adina and the Cadena relationship, and seeing like a Muslim lesbian on screen. And even though they didn't all relate to her 100%, they all, I think it's just such a relief to see a part of yourself reflected on screen. So I think it's really important, yeah.
Well, and the great thing is that the bold type makes things relatable in such big ways like that, but also such small moments. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed watching your FaceTime call freeze. Because we all know it does not work perfectly every time. So whenever you're watching a TV show and they're all like, "Hey, I'm in the middle of the ocean and we're doing a FaceTime call," like that's not what happened.
I was just FaceTiming my mom in the car on the way here. She's so funny. She was like, "Hey!" I was like, "Calm down." She's like, "Your braids." I was like, "I know. Shh. Let's just calm down."
But there are so many little moments that make it onto the screen that are so relatable, so many little one-off lines that we would say to our best friends out there. Are those moments automatically packed into the scripts, or are those things where, Amanda, you let your girls have freedom on set?
They make me look really good. We put things in the script, and then we let them, add things because they're so good and they're so funny. And some of my favorite lines are certainly not scripted. And so, thank you very much. Thank you.
For our ladies, have there been any moments that you've personally injected into the script that you're like, yes, that was mine?
Tiny Jane.
You
We made
Tiny
it.
Jane.
Tiny Jane.
Yeah. What else?
I also loved that we could relate to the screw top wine bottle, because we don't have to be fancy when we drink wine.
I am not fancy by any
A
definition.
wine opener.
Come
To
on.
be honest, I do in my purse, but it's also really nice to not have to put any extra effort in. So I feel like a screw top is just like,
You don't
a
want to
people
pull a
pleaser,
muscle.
crowd pleaser.
I mean, there's so much that goes into every scene. I feel like it's almost every scene. There's at least one thing in there that just kind of happened on the day.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm like blanking on.
Well, I mean, in all honesty, it's such a true collaboration. I mean, really, it's like it all becomes a mush, and everybody has just contributes so much, and so
Yeah.
it's been really nice.
we got to talk about the fashion.
Fashion.
First of all the confessionals in the closet, no matter which closet they end up in, are just so sensational. But I love the fact, and you guys are going to see as you continue on with the show, there are some heavy hitter designers that make appearances and through their fashion on the show. Did you guys find that after season 1 of The Bold Type, designers were like, yes, can we please feature things on the show? Was it an easier experience for you to get more?
Yeah, I mean, definitely anytime you're in the second season, and it definitely makes it a lot easier. And like getting Rachel Antonoff for the season premiere was, like, she was a huge fan of the show, and so that was amazing. But yeah, absolutely. It's, people are aware of it now, and so it's nice.
For our ladies, our actresses, do you have a favorite outfit that you've gotten to wear?
I will say I love the pink ruffly thing that you wore in the pilot. It's the second season. Oh, yeah, I wear this, it's like a gold suit in the finale. And I felt like really fancy. These water bottles are dropping like flies. It made me feel like so powerful and fancy, and I've never worn anything that expensive ever. Also, these shoes I was wearing the other day, I was like, who makes these? And they were like, Balenciaga. And I was like, oh, I guess I won't buy them for myself.
But it must be fun to play dress up and get to be able to do that.
I think my favorite is still the blue duster I wore in season 1 in like episode 2. Every time I go in for a fitting, I'm like, so any way we can like incorporate that again? But no luck this season.
Meghann, anything for Sutton? Also, I was telling her when we were watching it, she's hair goals. Her hair always looks amazing on the show.
Thank you very much. I have nothing to do with it, but I will take all of the credit. No, there's a really crazy outfit that I wear in season 2.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It is overalls, which are fly as hell. But then there's this shirt underneath it that's like a button-up, like truly to my chin. And it's striped, so it's like there's a lot happening. You're not totally sure if you unbutton it, whether or not my head will fall off. Like, it could be holding it, you know what I mean?
Bell bottoms.
And there's bell bottoms.
Bell bottoms.
Yeah. It comes out like there's a frill. You can't miss it. And I was like so down to wear it because I was like, I literally have no idea if this is the most hideous thing that has ever existed or if it's like completely incredible and super stylish and chic. And I kind of love not being able to gauge that because then I'm just sort of like blindly agreeing to doing it and just being like, well, here I am in this crazy shirt. So I did have there was a promo that came out and I'm wearing it. And my friends screenshotted it and on the group text they were like, explained. And I was like, I will not. So it is kind of fun to just be like, I'm doing crazy stuff and I'm not, I'm not thinking too hard about it. Yeah.
Amanda goes, you made a bold choice. Hashtag fashion.
Oh my God.
We're going to open it up to fan questions right now. I don't know if we have a mic going around, and if not, I'm going to restate it into my mic. So raise your hand if you have any fan questions, and I'm going to block this light. Yeah, back there with the pretty blonde hair. Yeah, hi, you.
I love that we meet these characters when they're already friends. Are we ever going to get to see their origin story?
Ooh. I want this so badly. I want a flashback episode. Yes. I want it.
Like 2012?
Sure.
Is that when they started? Oh no, I guess it was 3 years ago.
I feel like we could take some liberties.
Let's just go.
But that would be so fun.
Amanda?
Go back to
I'm just going to say 2 words, which are, don't worry.
Oh, that's so exciting. Yes, I want to see what they looked like when they first got to Scarlet.
What are those fashion
You know
choices?
what I mean? The fashion choices. What? Maybe they had really thin eyebrows. Remember that, you guys? Heavy times.
The
That wasn't 2012, Aisha.
No, but here's the thing. It wasn't that long ago that I used to just let makeup on. They'd be like, I'm going to pluck your eyebrows. And I'd be like, all right. Now I'm like, don't touch them. They're mine.
Any more? Yeah, down here.
I love hearing about collaboration and like finding the photographer that you drew Adina's character from. Are other storylines like that? Like I think about the activists, the performance artists with the weights. Do you draw from like real life people for those kind of one-off storylines, or are those?
It's everything, you know, because we're just pulling inspiration from things that we see, and then, you know, and so. Of course, I'm completely blanking if there's anything like specific that comes to mind, but we're always reading magazines and online, and talking about like an amazing article that we've read, and like the writers are constantly, you know, who's been up at like 3 a.m. like going on a deep dive onto the net because we'll wake up in the morning and have like a bunch of links to things. So yes, always we're being inspired by stuff.
Any more fan questions? Yeah, right here in the white shirt.
Okay, I love all the diversity, and we're showing the spectrum, but we're in a city that has a heavy Latino base. Are we gonna introduce like a prominent Latino character or any type of involvement that way?
We're always just with every character like opening it up, and so in terms of
Angie?
what? Oh yeah, Angie. What am I even thinking? We have a whole episode. Yeah. Yes. We are. It's such a rainbow that there are so many colors. And we are having a character named Angie who is this incredible
Angie's
actress.
awesome.
She's from the Get Down, and I'm very excited about her.
Yeah. I think like. Thank you. Well, there's No, as soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, Angie. Like you know who Angie is. You don't know her yet. I think like it's hard. You only have like 10 episodes, and you're trying to like cram as much as you can in. But I think like the more episodes we get, hello Freeform, keep ordering them. The more we can like, you know.
You get an episode.
You get an episode. Hey.
You get an arc.
Yeah.
They're telling me to wrap up, but we started a little late, so I'm going to use my moderator powers and continue on with just a couple more fan questions.
Okay, great. Hey.
Right over here in the green.
Hi, I love the show, and I was just wondering what each of your favorite episodes was for you guys, for the actors to film and for you to write.
My favorite is episode 9 from season 1 and episode 9 from season 2. Episode 9 from season 2 is...
Yeah, that's I haven't seen it yet, but it was my favorite to do.
Yeah.
So I'm episode 9 from this season, yeah.
Can you tease a little bit for her for what's going to happen? Just a little nugget?
Amanda, say what you think we can say.
We go home with Sutton.
Ooh, yeah.
We meet
there's
her
a road trip.
ex-boyfriend. There's a road trip.
They're singing.
They're singing, and one of our 3 girls gets really fucked up.
We have time for one more fan question. Yeah, right over down here.
I just had a quick question. Is Sutton ever gonna go red?
Oh, good question.
No. No, I'm joking. Anything's, you know, same thing goes with the shirt and the hair. I'll try anything once.
Lastly, I'm just curious to know, what do you guys hope that fans take away from this second season? Big question, I know. You got this.
Oh boy. I mean, I think...
Take away? I mean, honestly, the things that they've already taken away from the show. Just, you know, that support each other, be there for each other, and that in the show that they have a friend that they can, you know, tune in and their friends are there and they can see themselves and relate, and that we just want the show to feel like a best friend to the fans, and so hopefully they'll continue to feel that way.
Well, there aren't that many shows that you can just sit down and enjoy yourself. There's some great television out there, but sometimes it can be really hard to watch, and it hurts your heart, and you feel like exhausted at the end of it. And I feel like The Bold Type is like actually sitting down with an issue of Cosmo and being like, "Oh yeah, great! Oh my God, that's awesome!" Like,
And then every once in a while, like, oh.
oh yeah, I feel comforted.
The Bold Type is like a glass of rosé on a summer evening.
Nicely done.
Nicole with the final thoughts, and we will wrap it up with that. Thank you all so much for coming to our ATX Festival, The Bold Type. Season 2 premieres Tuesday, June 12th, with a special 2-hour episode. So you have to tune in so you can see the second hour, 2 hours, and you can rewatch the first episode on Hulu right now. So for the fans, if you could stay in your seats, and I'm going to get these girls off the stage. Thank you so much for coming. Enjoy ATX.
Thank you.